Welcome to Digital Marketing School. Today we're talking to Doug Farrell from Mail Online. Doug, you're very welcome to Digital Marketing School.
Thank you very much for having me.
With the prevalence of interactivity on social media, how has that affected the Mail Online?
Social media side of things is very interesting because obviously what we would do with Mail Online is every one of our articles obviously is very much fed into Facebook as well and Twitter. So we would command about a good 30 to 40% of our audience will come into stories from Facebook. So the social media element and within that then blogging it's very important to us, you know. But I think that's just one element. I think if you really have to join all the dots up to see where this is going. And I mean, I don't think anybody really knows where it's going exactly, you know. We have an idea, but that's probably as best as we can say.
Does social media feature in your promotional activities?
In terms of social media and in terms of promotions in general, digitally, what's funny is if you look at the traditional model, things like inserts in a newspaper still work very well. And in a kind of recession culture now, we have the whole recession chic thing. I suppose the cliche is that years ago when we had butter vouchers, people were always very reticent to using vouchers. Look at America, they love coupons. Here we're starting to see an acceptance of that kind of thing now. It's quite cool to be able to go and use a coupon to redeem your discount. So we've used social media and we've also used our traditional, or not traditional, but our online platforms to deliver the likes of downloadable coupons, that kind of thing, with redeemable barcodes. Use that a lot for kind of fast-moving consumer goods and that type of thing in supermarkets. There will be, and I hope to see this happen quicker, hopefully it'll happen this year, will be a move to having digital scannable barcodes, the likes of your phone. If you look at the way we're moving with things like, you know, Google Wallet, being able to pay for things with your phone, the idea would be to be able to scan your phone in the supermarket, your barcode is there. Problem at the moment, of course, is the fact that we don't have the right scanning technology in some of the outlets. But when that changes, that'll revolutionize particularly the online advertising perspective, because if you look at a large consumer brand, I mean, there's effectively no cost in terms of printing out coupons, in terms of that type of thing. So that's and that in conjunction with social media to get the message across, you know, it's quite a useful tool for people.
The Mail Online has some interesting apps. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
We have a suite of apps for Mail Online, obviously iPad, Android, iPhone. The apps have been very useful for us. We've rolled out an awful lot of our video campaigns that we would do. We will actually run on the likes of our mobile platform as well, simply because I just think that video on the go just looks great on handheld devices. But all of the apps and all of that technology that we employ there is it's just another, if you like, link in the chain. There's the main, you know, desktop site, we've got everything else there, we've got a traditional site, we've got video stuff. So the apps are very useful to us. We have an interesting feature on our iPhone and Android app, which is their self-caching, which is very useful for, predominantly they were designed for the UK market, so people spend a lot of time on the tube. So obviously when you're in a Wi-Fi area, it'll flush all of your cache, all your pictures and everything else and load all of the site back on. So that when you're away, very useful if you're flying. But the great thing is we can try and, should I say, and track clicks whilst you're out of coverage. So whilst you can't actually get through to the destination site, it's still a good metric to measure sort of availability and how people are actually trying to interact with ads whilst they're, if you like, you know, 30,000 miles above the Irish Sea. So a useful tool to just, you know, gather some information.
And finally, Doug, what do you see in the future for the Mail Online?
Certainly in terms of the commercial end of things, and in terms of what we're seeing here, whilst there's obviously a move towards things like direct response advertising across networks and that type of thing, there's still a bit of a resurgence now in the old school brand advertising. There's a lot to be said for, you know, that sexy ad on the back of a magazine, you know, nice photography, nicely shot. And I think what we're seeing is an increase in billboard, large banner sizes, stuff that almost, if you like, blur the boundary between digital and the traditional side of things. That's one element. The other, of course, as I mentioned, is content. And I think obviously video on demand, massive. Things like tagged video, another one which we see as being a very, very important step. So I mean, ultimately, I think it's probably a really good time in terms of online. I think that we've possibly, you know, whilst it's still very important to have metrics and obviously measure how effective everything is, there's a slight I think softening. I think what the problem is, people aren't looking at the marketing mix as a whole. If you have a specialist in one area and they only look at their section of the business, and say it might be digital, it might be a campaign manager in an agency. The problem is, if they haven't experienced the wider marketing mix, a lot of people that I've met, a lot of people that are out there, maybe are unfamiliar with newspapers, maybe are unfamiliar with radio, and maybe unfamiliar with TV in terms of how they all interact and deliver a campaign, outdoor even. So as a result, if you put all of these little dots together, you're getting the marketing mix, you're getting the full campaign and what it's supposed to be doing. Cross-media is an example. So as a result, I think the issue here is, and I'm starting to see it now within the industry, is that the traditional planners that we would have had planning out a campaign are now becoming digital savvy as opposed to having a specialist do it for them. So as a result, you're actually getting a better spread, and sometimes the sexy ad is the thing that actually works better.
Doug Farrell from the Mail Online, thanks for coming in and talking to us today at Digital Marketing School.